It's a curious conference, this, Glenn, because we've had a procession of Scottish cabinet ministers, Mike Russell, Richard Lochhead, Kenny McCaskill was speaking at a fringe at lunchtime, will be addressing the conference later. In other words, setting out the stall of their policies and future ambitions with regard to the Scottish Government. Of course, as you've just been discussing with Jim Mitchell, the overarching issue for the entire thing is the UK general election. It dominates all the discussions here, off stage, and frankly most of it on as well. So you have that curious mismatch, and it's that curious mismatch that the SNP will be taking forward into the election when they'll be setting out a pitch from a position of government in Scotland, but translating that pitch into how they can do at a UK election. To discuss that, Glenn, I'm joined by a couple of delegates, Lis Bardell, who hopes to represent the party in Livingston, and Alasdair Allan, who already does represent the SNP in the Western Isles seat in the Scottish Parliament. Thank you both for joining us. You won 6 seats in 2005 at the UK general election. Your best ever at Westminster is 11. How many do you think you'll take this time around?
Well, we're hoping for 20. And we acknowledge that that's an ambitious target. But like much else that the Scottish Government does, yes. We seek to be ambitious here.
Among that 20 are seats where you're coming from third or even fourth. It really is an ambitious target, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I suspect that in the outcome, the results will be quite different in different places across the country. But of course, I'm focused on the constituency of Livingston, where we're talking about by-election results.
If you fall short of 20, is that a poor night for the SNP?
I think not. I think however many we have elected, we'll be focused on championing Scotland's interests and the issues for the people of Scotland, both at local and national level. And it remains to be seen what the outcome will be overall, and what the numbers will be in any circumstance.
Alasdair Allan, how do you play it in the event of that hung Parliament, or balanced Parliament, as I think you like to call it at Westminster? Whom would you prefer to deal with, the Tories or Labour?
Well, of course, for SNP members and activists that you see here today, they don't really see an awful lot of distinction in the record of the Tories and Labour on whether it's cuts or whether it's support for illegal wars. So what we want is to stand up for Scotland's interests, and a balanced Parliament, a hung Parliament, is the ideal situation for Scotland to exert some real control, some real influence. And I think that's why we're saying to people the more Nats that are elected, the less cuts.
But even in the event of a hung or balanced Parliament, why would either the Tories and Labour Party do a deal with you? Why wouldn't they go first to the Liberal Democrats, who you're talking 50 or 60 seats? Well, that's what they currently have.
Well, I think there's a big dispute about whether that's what the Lib Dems will have after the election. I don't know what any party will have after the election.
They'll have more seats than you, aren't they?
But all I do know is that the SNP are fighting, as Liz has said, a very ambitious campaign, but one that's based on the idea that we stand for the Scottish interest, and it's something that none of the other parties can say with any degree of genuineness.
What about the argument that, which understandably from their perspective, the Labour Party are advancing this morning when they're saying if you vote SNP, the result is you get Tory?
Well, of course, that's the age-old Labour scare story. The fact of the matter is that the SNP are likely to be the people who are far more likely to advance Scotland's interests fearlessly in Westminster than Labour ever have done. And I think that the fact that we're fighting a campaign pointing out Labour's willingness to cut services in Scotland reflects that fact.
Can I just say as well that,
yes.
I mean, on that front, the Scottish people should remember that they returned a Labour majority from 79 through 92, and they got the Tories from 79 to 97. No. So that issue will be decided down south, I think. Are you saying the Conservatives currently have one MP from Scotland?
If they manage to get that up to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, they'll be doing a pretty good night, because again, like you, they have some challenging targets in the seats. Would you say that the Conservatives would have a mandate to govern Scotland in the event that they return to the United Kingdom?
Well, I think these things are determined by the people themselves, and I think the feeling was very strong in the years that I've just spoken about, that they did not have such a mandate. And in those circumstances, I think the people of Scotland will and should look to the SNP to stand up for them.
Thanks both. Thanks very much indeed. And from Aviemore back to the studio in Glasgow.